I mean, that's often what makes people think.
But
it
can also be just, it's just
you're lying.
Nobody believes this. Because also, again, when you're talking about things, when you're not just legal theories, but like actual events that have occurred and actual evidence. There was a case of an incident in which, I don't want to say Border Patrol, but immigration officials arrested a woman who they drove into.
Yep.
And everybody watched the incident and said, you drove into her, and then they dragged her out of the car and arrested her. Yeah. And then dropped the charges later. These are the things that are happening.
In today's video, Abby Phillip destroys Arthur Aidala on Table for 5. Abby Phillip takes on Arthur Aidala's MAGA-fueled talking points as they clash over the Trump administration's growing credibility crisis, from false testimonies in court to blatant DOJ overreach. Abby Phillip calls out the hypocrisy in defending law enforcement misconduct while the justice system bends under political influence. This debate gets fiery fast, and Abby Phillip doesn't hold back as she dismantles the excuses and demands accountability. So let's dive in and watch how Abby Phillip shuts down Arthur Aidala on Table for 5.
There's a lot in the courts happening, and I will say, Trump is winning in some cases, but on the question of can the government's word be trusted, that's being called into question many times. And I'm actually flabbergasted by this, because let me play for you what Gregory Bovino, he's the Border Patrol agent that has been sent over to Chicago. This is the exchange where he is asked about the use of force, and particularly his use of force, and here's what he says.
You said on October 30 that from what you have seen, all of the uses of force by yourself and the men under your command have been more than exemplary, your words. You still stand by that?
Yes.
So when you tackled Scott Blackburn, as shown in the video marked for identification as Exhibit 8, that use of force on your part was more than exemplary?
Objective form lacks foundation.
As we talked earlier, that was not a reportable use of force.
Not a use of
placed
force.
him in under arrest. I didn't tackle him. I placed him under arrest.
Gotcha.
The judge looked at that and said, that's a lie. There's a video. You clearly tackled him. I think it is really ballsy, frankly, to go to a court and then straight up lie like that.
Okay, so
what is happening?
You know what I do with my day job, right? When I'm not playing a lawyer on TV.
Yes.
Of course, I couldn't agree with you more. That's what I do all day long. Is I cross-examine law enforcement officers, and I try to say that they're either exaggerating or blowing things out of proportion, and that my client is not guilty. So this is like nothing new. I mean, this is being, look, I bleed blue because I need them to protect us. But law enforcement officers lying in a court of law is not exactly something that's unique and new under Trump. I mean, it's been going on forever and ever and ever.
About something that's on video?
Well, now they're on video.
This is the issue, right?
Look,
like we see
Derek
all these
Chauvin
things.
went to trial, right? The whole thing was on video, and that's his constitutional right to contradict what we saw on video. So, but I mean, look, Trump's Department of Justice going to trial and someone being found not guilty. Luckily, under my law firm, of the last 5 presidents, Department of Justice have gone to trial and they've been found not guilty by lawyers in my office. So that's not so unique. But I will say there have been some arguments by the Trump administration in the Supreme Court of the United States and in other courts of appeals that have strained credulity. Is that the right word?
Yes, it is.
But the flip side of the coin is that often is what makes new law.
Abby Phillip and Arthur Aidala really exposes the deep divide in how people view accountability within law enforcement and the justice system. Abby raises a valid concern here. When a Border Patrol agent like Gregory Bovino can blatantly lie under oath despite clear video evidence, it undermines public trust in institutions that are supposed to uphold the law. What's even more alarming is that this isn't just an isolated issue. It's part of a broader pattern that became even more apparent under the Trump administration, where truth seemed negotiable if it served political goals. Let's be real. Yes, police misconduct has existed for decades, but the difference now is how normalized it's become to defend it, even when the evidence is undeniable. Studies from the Bureau of Justice Statistics and independent watchdogs have repeatedly shown that disciplinary action for law enforcement officers who lie or use excessive force remains incredibly rare. That lack of accountability breeds a culture where officers feel untouchable. And Arthur's "it's been happening forever" defense is exactly the problem. Just because something has always happened doesn't make it acceptable. The Trump-era DOJ took that mindset to another level by often backing law enforcement narratives no matter how flawed they were, even when courts themselves found contradictions or falsehoods. Abby's point is not about politics, it's about integrity. If truth in court doesn't matter, then the justice system loses its moral authority. And honestly, that's far more dangerous than any partisan win.
I mean, that's often what makes people think.
But
and
it can also be just, it's just
you're lying.
Nobody believes this. Because also, again, when you're talking about things, when you're not just legal theories, but like actual events that have occurred and actual evidence. There was a case of an incident in which, I don't want to say Border Patrol, but immigration officials arrested a woman who they drove into. And everybody watched the incident and said, you drove into her, and then they dragged her out of the car and arrested her. And then dropped the charges later. These are the things that are happening.
And part of this challenge is there are people who feel empowered and emboldened to just make bald-faced lies, and then there's people like this young man who was the security guard at a farm where there were undocumented workers on the farm, and he's like, here's my passport, let me just get it for you, I'm a U.S. citizen. And they didn't care. Just dragged him out, brought him in, put him into custody. He was detained for 2 or 3 days. So those of us who have to now prove that we are legitimately U.S. citizens don't feel that confidence that the American justice system is going to be treating all of us equally.
So on a lighter note, the sandwich guy.
I was going to say.
We got to talk about the sandwich
free.
guy because he is free. This was the testimony from the Border Patrol agent. You could smell the onions and mustard, he recalled. He said the sandwich exploded on him. He could feel it through his ballistic vest, and to which a jury said, not guilty. I mean, they tried to charge this guy with a felony. They raided his home, essentially, in this sort of like major operation, only to charge him with throwing a sandwich.
Abby Phillip, Nayer Haq, and Arthur Aidala really highlights how far the justice system has drifted from fairness and common sense. Abby and Nayera are absolutely right to point out the absurdity and danger of what's happening when immigration officers can lie about running over a woman or detaining a US citizen who literally shows proof of citizenship. It's not just politics, it's a fundamental breakdown of accountability. These aren't isolated mistakes, they're symptoms of a system that's been conditioned to protect authority rather than people. And Arthur's defense that these things happen completely misses the point. Yes, abuses of power have always existed, but the fact that we've seen an increase in these incidents, many caught on video, shows that emboldened officials now act without fear of consequence. According to reports from the American Civil Liberties Union and ProPublica, immigration enforcement agencies have repeatedly violated due process rights, often targeting Latino and immigrant communities under the assumption that no one will call them out. This isn't just bias, it's systemic negligence. Then there's the sandwich assault case Abby and Nayera mentioned. It perfectly exposes the misuse of government resources. Charging a man with a felony for throwing a sandwich while millions go hungry just shows how misplaced the system's priorities have become. It's not about safety, it's about control and overreach. Abby and Nayera are right to be outraged, because if the justice system spends more effort criminalizing sandwiches than fixing inequality, then maybe the real crime is how little justice there actually is.
We're going to Twilight Zone. This is the same world that we live in where we don't have enough money. I want to go back to what we've already talked about to feed the 42 million Americans, but we have enough money to bring somebody to court over a sandwich. Like, this sounds insane to me that this is even a conversation. You look on social media, you see it. Every 5 seconds, you see someone doing something illegal under the name or under a guise of authority, and they feel as if they're empowered to do so.
You just said it's
been going on for a long time. I agree with you.
When I was in the DA's office, I would dismiss cases because cops did the wrong
Arthur,
thing.
no one's disagreeing. I am saying, look, I come from the world of sports. No one's ever fouled, ever. Like, every guy's like, I didn't do it. That was him. I didn't do it. Yeah, you do it. But, like, I understand. But the world that we live in today, I'm watching in real time, and people are out here doing whatever they want to, taking law into their own hands because if they feel as if they can, and it starts from the top, they feel as if
I've asked this a number of times, but I will continue to ask it because I think every time these videos come out, and it's every single day, and also, you know, the DHS spokesperson keeps making false statements in trying to diminish the effect of these videos. How much longer will they be able to keep this up? Because there is going to be backlash. There already is some backlash to some of this.
Yeah. First of all, with the sandwich incident, I think it's a crime for two reasons. First of all, you shouldn't really be thrown at a cop. But secondly, I'd like to eat one.
Okay,
but secondly, here's the thing.
They said it was thrown at point blank range.
It was
the
dangerous sandwich.
The danger.
Look, I don't think you never should be screwing around with a law enforcement officer, but I understand the tensions of the issue. Whatever. The point I'm trying to make is, with any great sort of change or some big effort being undertaken, there comes a great deal of responsibility. And so I support the men and women of ICE, but they have to hold the mantle of responsibility and hold themselves to a higher level. Because at some point, like you said, there will be negative backlash. There already is. It's also a PR campaign to keep your deportations popular. When I was on the show after Trump got elected, we saw polling in favor of mass deportation. Now that number has flipped. Why? Because of the way things have been carried out. So I think there needs to be changes to the process to ensure that we're doing the right thing by the American people, we're carrying out the will, and we're following the law.
With power comes a lot of responsibility. I think you're totally right about that. And I don't know. I feel like this administration is just sort of flaunting that as if it doesn't matter, but it really does.
This exchange between Carrie Champion, Abby Phillip, and T.W. Arrighi really shows how the issue of power and accountability keeps colliding in America's justice and immigration systems. Carrie and Abby are absolutely right to highlight how absurd it's gotten when someone can be dragged into court over a sandwich while 42 million Americans are struggling to afford food. It says a lot about where our government's priorities actually are. And TW can talk about responsibility all day, but the truth is that responsibility isn't being applied equally. Let's not forget that multiple investigations from ProPublica and the Department of Homeland Security's own Inspector General have exposed widespread misconduct within ICE and Border Patrol, from falsified reports to abuse of power at the border. These aren't isolated incidents, they're systemic failures. And while TW defends these agencies as though they're just a few bad apples, the evidence points to something much deeper. It's just a culture of impunity that's been allowed to grow unchecked for years. Carrie also brings up a great point about public perception. The reason polling on deportations has shifted is because people are finally seeing these abuses in real time, on camera, online, every single day. Americans are waking up to the reality that law and order isn't the same as justice. Supporting law enforcement doesn't mean ignoring corruption within it. Carrie and Abby are standing on the right side of this debate, the side that demands transparency, humanity, and accountability. Because when people in power stop fearing consequences, everyone else pays the price. Pause. Are you getting tired of getting half the story from biased news sources? One outlet says one thing, and another says the complete opposite. How are you supposed to know what's actually true? That's where ground news comes in. It lets you compare how different media outlets, left, right, and center, are covering the same story. So you can see the full picture instead of just the echo chamber. And here's the best part. Click the link in the description and get 40% off the Vantage tier, which gives you even deeper insights into media bias and political trends. Stay informed, think for yourself, and check out Ground News in the description down below.